Morning and welcome to our thought for the day. Yesterday we looked at a verse from Daniel chapter 6 and verse 22. And Daniel chapter 6 and verse 16, it says this: Then the king commanded, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spoke and said unto Daniel, Thou God whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. Daniel chapter 6 verse 16. And then verse 22, it says this: My God hath sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt me. Daniel and the lion's den. Who hasn't heard of Daniel and the lion's den? But there's so much more to learn about Daniel. There was so much more that happened in his life. Wonderful things. In how he proved God, how he proved the power of God in his life. I want to ask you this morning, have you proved the power of God in your life? Friends, it's exciting to prove God. And this morning he's waiting for you to prove him. Life is so often hard and trials come from everywhere we look. They come from the world, they come from within. Sometimes they come from the family, sometimes they come from even the church. But we must not look to the trial, we must not look to the trouble, but we must look to the one who brings the triumph. And that is what Daniel did all through his life. He proved the power of God. You'll remember that Daniel, at the age of 14, was carried captive by Nebuchadnezzar's invading forces, and was made a slave and was separated from family and friends. But he wasn't separated from God. How wonderful it is to know, friends, that nothing can separate us from the love of God which is in Christ Jesus. And if, friends, your family have forsaken you and friends have forsaken you, always remember that God will never forsake you. Never will he forsake you. And so Daniel grew, and God took him from a slave, and he made him the prime minister of Babylon. And God has taken you who know Christ from the slavery of sin to being kings and priests in Christ. Isn't it incredible what he's done for you and what he's done for me? Daniel had become a very wealthy man, but the most precious possession he had was not his personal treasury, but his personal testimony and character. He was faithful. You see, he was truly known as a man of God. He truly knew God, not about God, but he knew God. He knew him personally. He knew him intimately. Do you know him personally this morning? Do you know him intimately this morning? Are you faithful to him? For if you want to know victory in Christ, friends, then you must be faithful to Christ. Because it is not just a profession of Christ, but it must be a possession of Christ. Christ must be yours, and you must be his. And that's when Christ will move. And so they could find no fault in Daniel. So how would these evil men get him into trouble? These evil men went to King Darius and they flattered him and said, Don't you realize how powerful you are? Don't you realize that the whole known world is at your command? Why don't you sign a decree? Make it a royal statute that no man in your kingdom asks a petition of any other god but you. Make sure you do it, and it's done for 30 days. Put a ban on every prayer meeting throughout the empire. This king had great power. But he was to discover that Jesus, the King of all kings, had greater power. We will see what God did, how he showed his power tomorrow morning. God bless you, and I look forward to speaking with you again tomorrow.